Brittany from the Royal News Network, let's get back to our amazing AMA questions from our incredible joint outspoken RNN audience. Elizabeth Potts 6585 asks, many people are calling for Harry or at least his children to be removed from the line of succession. But don't you think this seems like a slippery slope? Once in the practice of picking and choosing who could become monarch, then why not just make it an elected position? Very interesting from Elizabeth Potts. What do you reckon, Brittany?
I mean, that's a very interesting question, Elizabeth, for sure, because it is sort of a slippery slope. But I think in this modern era, because in previous, in the medieval times, the Renaissance and stuff, things were dealt with a bit more, you could call it aggressively, when it came to errant members of a royal family. You sent them off to war and hoped that war took care of the rest, sort of thing. And so I think in this sort of modern era, you do actually need some way to, discipline may sound like a harsh word, but to share with them, hey, you're part of this. You have to be, act a particular way. If you decide not to do that, that's your right, but there are consequences. I think there needs to be an element of consequence here so you don't end up with a situation like Harry, because Harry and Meghan left in part because they thought they could just do whatever the heck they wanted. Nobody was going to tell them no, because nobody really had told them no. And so I think you need sort of a system here where a no is in the vocabulary somewhere, or of, oh, caution, if you leave, then again, you leave something else behind. You just don't get to go off and do whatever you want without consequences. There has to be consequences here. And I don't know quite how those look, but yeah, being stripped of your place in the line of succession and title, I think that's a great way to keep some royal family members in line.
Very good point. Next question from Galloping Cat 1745, who writes, Dan, I'm glad that you've added Brittany as a regular guest. She always has an interesting perspective on all things royals, including royalty from other countries. My question relates to the British press and the royal family. Can you confirm whether or not there is now, or if there has ever been, an embargo or super injunction in place regarding the circumstances of the births of the children of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle? I know that Brittany isn't interested in this topic, but I know that you are, and that you have been in a position to know the answer to my question. It seems that many members of the press know things about this topic, but very few are willing to cover it. It makes me wonder if there has been a prohibition on reporting about it. Thank you. So, Brittany, I'll kick off. My understanding is that there has not been any form of injunction or super injunction, although the crazy way that the courts of law work in the United Kingdom, I always like to be transparent about this, that if there is a super injunction in place, what a super injunction means is that you cannot even report that there is a super injunction in place. But I will stress that is not my understanding. I think the British press have been very, very reluctant to touch this story. Brittany, do you want to come in?
I need you to do something for me right now. It is free. It is easy. It is simple. Just hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's because over 50% of you watching this video haven't done that yet.
Yeah, so this has always been a bit of an interesting one, because I was very briefly on the surrogacy bandwagon very early in Meghan's first pregnancy with Archie. She was just very weird about her bump. It drew more attention to it, but not in like a positive way. You're just like, why are you touching your stomach so much? You really don't. You just had a big burrito breakfast. That's what it looks like right now. Why are you cupping nothing? It was very bizarre. But as time went on, especially with, in particular, her weight gain, I was like, okay, I'm not really on the surrogacy thing here. Do I think there was any sort of injunctions? Not as far as I can tell. Has that ever been reported? Obviously, if it's a super injunction, you can't report. I've always come under the kind of understanding, seeing the whole situation, that it was really more about Harry and Meghan playing games that resulted in people unnecessarily questioning things. Again, every toxicity thing is result of them. They're the problem. She wanted to play games. She wanted to get one over on the press. And now everybody thinks her children are either born via surrogate or fake, or she rents a kids, like things that just don't make a ton of sense. They still exist there because of Harry and Meghan. Do I think maybe she padded her bump from time to time because it didn't look big enough to her, the right shape to her, what have you? I 100% believe that's entirely a possibility. But the whole pregnancy, no. If you know surrogacy laws in the UK, I believe my understanding is that not only can you not pay somebody to do it, so you can't actually, like in the United States, you can pay somebody to be a surrogate. That's not the case in the UK. But also as well, I believe Meghan would actually have to technically adopt Archie if he was not born from her. The legal guardian of the parent in the UK, which is a complication as well, is always the mother who gave birth, and then the adoption can be organized later, whereas that is not the case sometimes in the United States. So all those legalese to say, as far as I'm aware, there's no injunction, there's no great conspiracy here, just a narcissistic woman attempting to control the narrative. And of course, it never goes the way Meghan Markle wants it to go. It always is worse. And the people who are suffering really, truly here are her children. There's so many questions around her kids that are unnecessary, but she's a narcissist. So that's what happened.
Yeah, and I think it is worth going back. I've spoken about this with Lady Colin Campbell before, but right back in May 2019, it was the 10th of May 2019, I posed a whole load of questions to Buckingham Palace about the birth of Archie, because I've never believed that the circumstances around the birth of Archie were normal. And I was trying, from my position in the mainstream media as executive editor of The Sun, to try and get some answers. And I think it is just worth sharing with you, Brittany, what I asked them then and what they told me, just to see if it adds up at all. So these were all official, on the record from Buckingham Palace. So I asked, why did Harry and Meghan's American PR, Sarah Latham, promise to alert the media the moment Meghan went into labour, only to wait around 12 hours to do so? And they answered, we have always made clear the wish of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex that the birth would be a private event, as stated in our Royal Comms operational note issued on April 10. Their Royal Highnesses have taken a personal decision to keep the plans around the arrival of the birth private. The Duke and Duchess look forward to sharing the exciting news with everyone once they have had the opportunity to privately celebrate as a new family. The Duchess had gone into labour in the early hours of the morning during the pre-agreed media blackout period. The labour announcement was predominantly for operational purposes to trigger the opening of the media facility. However, I went on, Brittany, why did she then seem to lie about it by eventually announcing Meghan was in labour 9 hours after she had actually given birth? The answer, she didn't. Media reporting inferred that the Duchess was in labour, not our announcement. The announcement stated that the Duchess went into labour in the early hours of the morning. The Duke of Sussex was by Her Royal Highness's side. An announcement will be made soon. Question, was the announcement delayed until 1 p.m. in time for the American breakfast TV shows in New York at 8 a.m? Answer, no. The announcement was timed to suit the Duke and Duchess after their friends and family had been informed. Question, had CBS This Morning been tipped off about the due date and birth plans in order to allow presenter Gayle King to fly to the UK and film a primetime special? Answer, no. CBS are making a programme to commemorate the Royal Highness's first wedding anniversary. Question, when an email failure meant the media could not be alerted at 1 p.m. that Meghan had gone into labour, even though she had actually given birth at that point, why not speak directly to news organisations on the phone? The reason I wanted to go through all of that is to show that, number one, I have been on this story from day one. I knew something didn't add up. It's quite incredible that at the time Buckingham Palace were prepared to answer those questions on the record. That went against all of the protocol, and it showed their huge concern about the dodgy nature of this. You know, the emails were down. Why didn't you just make a phone call? But even all of these years on, it doesn't make sense to me, Brittany.
I mean, if you look at the whole thing, it's just a mess. You see Buckingham Palace bending over backwards in order to try to justify trying to placate Harry and Meghan. When the answer should have been from Buckingham Palace, when Harry and Meghan were like, well, we want to do all these things our own way. It should have been, no. If you are having this child in the line of succession this high up, Unfortunately, the reality is you need to abide by these specific rules. We're not going to make a special exception to you because I think, again, making all these accommodations for them only inflated their egos further. What it should have been is simply, this is how it's done. Yes, you have all this other control in other areas, but you don't get to lie to the press. And yes, I know they were tricky in their wording, but much like Harry's statement that his family was racist, the media ran with it. And did they correct it? No. Did they correct it when Archie was born? No. They should have just said, Archie has arrived. Like, I don't understand why they had to be vague in order to placate the two of them. And obviously, Meghan wanted to play to the US press because she knew she was going to drag her husband back to the United States with her to try to make it in Hollywood. So she wanted to always maximize US coverage as much as humanly possible. I can totally imagine them trying to work everything around that. But the palace should have said no. They should have, again, they're members of the family, they're working royals, they have security. There are certain requirements to live in this world. And if you can't abide by them, then yeah, you're going to have to leave and leave your title at the door. That's going to be how it has to work.
And I'm sorry, to try and say that, oh, we didn't lie. It's like, well, you omitted the crucial piece of information, just like you omitted where the birth took place. Why? Why couldn't we know the doctors? Why couldn't we know the details? That is royal tradition. It was all very, very odd. And I guess, look, I'm not someone, I don't even believe in the term conspiracy theory, Brittany, because every time someone says something is a conspiracy theory, or I've been accused of spreading a conspiracy theory. And by the way, I'm not talking about stories connected to the royal family. I'm talking about, for example, that COVID didn't leak from a Chinese lab when I knew it didn't. People called me a conspiracy theorist. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't call it a conspiracy theory, but I do think that I was onto this from the start in terms of knowing something was up, asking those questions. And it is really shameful to me that given I was asking those questions in The Sun, that was published in The Sun, the UK's biggest tabloid newspaper at the time, why did the rest of the mainstream media not pick up on that, given they were all lied to as well, with very, very odd reasoning? Because you can just pick up the phone. Come on. What the email didn't send. Oh, none of it makes sense. Anyway, let's move on. At FrommyBenchPin5717 asks, hi Dan, love you and your show so much. Oh, thank you very much. I would ask Brittany if Netflix will cancel Meghan Markle's cooking show after the Centre Bali scandal. Meghan is most likely behind Prince Harry's actions because she is the biggest bully of them all. So, FrommyBenchPin has a clear view. Isn't the problem, Brittany, that at this point Netflix are all in? They can't cancel. It's filmed.
No, they're not going to cancel it. It's already filmed. So there are cases where it was sometime, I think last year, they had a Batgirl movie that was canned by WB. And so they got a tax write-off for that. So the only avenue Netflix could have here is a tax write-off. But unfortunately, Netflix is 100% in the bag with Harry and Meghan in particular. So they are a sort of passive investor in her brand, as Ted Sandros put it to Variety. So they have a vested interest in seeing some of her brands succeed because I'm sure they're getting royalties from the products. That would be how I structure the deal, is to make sure I get some sort of kickback for investing in this. I mean, again, spread, like that they decided, Netflix in their infinite wisdom, who won the streaming wars, decided to invest in spread. I will never understand, but they are already in. It's already done. And for them, like, the best thing they can do right now is continue and try to get this out. And so it can be something that is sort of officially making more money. Because I think the reason why, I don't even think now that the wildfires were really the reason they delayed it. They wanted to delay it to get it closer to the launch of the products. Because the further away the show is from the products, the less products are going to sell. We do have the second series or second season where they're hoping to sell more. So this is all about making money. Netflix wants to make money. They've wasted a lot of money on Harry and Meghan with very little return. They might get at least royalties with her products. So they're going to do that.
Very good point. I love this next question, Brittany. I have to say it's my favorite. It's from Polly Livingston Sloan. And I've given you no warning for this, Brittany, so you're going to have to go off the top of your head. But she asks, if you could go to a royal occasion as an invited guest, past or present, what would it be?
Ooh, past is difficult to say, but present, for some reason, it's always been the Swedish Nobels. I've always wanted to go to the Swedish Nobels. So I don't know why. It's just that it's just so cool because everybody comes, they dress up in their gala and in their very best. I applied to actually go as a member of the press last year, and I was very excited because even if you're a writing member of the press, you actually get to sit in the banquet hall with everybody and enjoy dinner. You had to pay for it, but I was like, I'll pay for that. But that's for some reason the event that just seemed like magic to me is that particular event. Now, it would also be, I don't think we're anticipating any big royal wedding in the future in terms of like an heir getting married. That's always a huge occasion, but the other royals tend to have more tiaras at some of those type of wedding events. So I'd love to go to one of those as well. I've been lucky enough to be able to cover a state visit and see Queen Mary wearing a tiara in person. That was very, very exciting. But for some reason, the Swedish Nobels, that's like the thing I want to see.
I love that.
I don't know why, but that's
I'm trying to think. So I covered the first royal visit I covered actually was in 2000 and gosh, what was it? 2001, I think, when the late Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip visited Wellington, New Zealand. So that was my first royal visit. That was amazing to cover. And then I also covered the wedding of Charles and Camilla in Windsor in 2005. But I think in terms of events, the present event or the most sort of recent event, I guess, would be the wedding of William and Catherine, because I think that just would have been incredible. And I would have loved to have seen their private happiness. And that was such a special day. I was covering it for the TLC network in America, actually. And it was just a glorious, glorious, special, special day. But I would have loved to have been inside. And I think in terms of a past event, Brittany, for me, it's got to be the coronation of Elizabeth II. I just think, wow. I know it was televised a little bit, but not in all its glory. And to see such a young queen would have just been amazing. Of course, there were so many more people in the Abbey for that event. So I think probably the past event. But then I think, Brittany, and maybe some people are going to think I'm so sick for saying this, but just because it was such an emotional, devastating time, I think maybe the funeral of Princess Diana, that would have been something that you just would have wanted to be there to experience that moment with everyone when we were feeling that grief. But yeah, I think probably the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, probably for me. Julie Slap 176 asks Brittany, what does she think Catherine's next tiara she wears might be? And also, out of the available collection for Catherine, what one would she suit the most?
Ooh, I have very passionate feelings about the tiaras of the British royal family. And I love that we're seeing more sharing between the members. I think that's very, very good because Sophie wore the lotus flower, which Catherine has previously worn. It still had the felt that matches Catherine's hair. So that seems to be a last minute change. And then Camilla wore the aquamarine ribbon, which Sophie has previously exclusively worn. So for Catherine, one of the ones I'm really hoping we see, because I was really hoping to see the Strathmore Rose, and she blessed us with that in 2023. But the next one I want to see, which I'm really hoping made its way back into the vaults, we're not entirely sure though, is actually the turquoise tiara that Princess Margaret used to wear way back in the day. She was the one who had the control of that. So the turquoise and diamond tiara that she had, I would love to see Catherine wear that. It's a bit of a higher profile, but I think totally appropriate for a princess of Wales. And turquoise is so unique. There's not too many of those type of tiaras out there. And I think it really would suit Catherine with her dark hair. So I'm really hoping that is one of the ones that we see sometime here in the near future, because one of the things I dislike about the Brits is that you're kind of given the tiara you're given and that's it. Whereas some families, particularly the Swedes and the Dutch, like anybody can show up in any tiara. Yeah, that's it right there. I'm really hoping
Brittany,
Catherine busts that out.
Yeah, because I think, isn't, is that the same tiara? Did Diana wear it or?
No.
Different?
Diana had the Spencer. So Diana exclusively wore pretty much the Spencer. So
Diana
they have some
never
design
wore
elements.
the turquoise tiara. Okay.
It was it was Princess Margaret. She was the one who had the exclusive use of it. And when she passed away, obviously the Baltimore tiara, that one was obviously sold at auction. But this one, we don't know. It does have connections to the family. So I can imagine, I would hope it made its way back into the vault, because I think that would be a spectacular piece on Catherine. Really looking forward to it. Obviously, the Spencer belongs to the Spencer family. I know some people think Charlotte's going to inherit it. That's really unlikely unless the Spencers decide, well, they'll leave it to the main line of the British royal family so others who are descendants of Diana can use it. I just find that unlikely, but the turquoise, that's what I'm gunning for. We haven't seen that one in a long time. I love seeing an old tiara be a bust out of the vaults. It's the best.
This is an interesting question, Brittany, to wrap, from Luke Edwards. What does a royal warrant mean? Does it really enhance a brand or not? Is it more a political tool now, or does it really mean the product is used by the royal household? And I think... Sorry, you go, Brittany.
No, I was just going to say, go ahead. I was just going to say, very interesting question.
Yeah, well, my understanding, certainly, like, because I'm thinking about, like, Fortnum and Masons, for example, the royals have always loved it and loved their products. And obviously they do groceries. And I think they have the royal warrant for grocers and tea. And I know the royal family, I mean, they love Fortnum and Mason products. So certainly in some cases, they're very passionate about it. And Brittany, I would imagine they have to, because like there was the Goreen Hotel, which has a royal warrant for hospitality services, was truly the place that the late Queen loved going for lunch. So I think it does mean something. But what do you think, Brittany?
You know, I haven't done too much research on royal warrants myself, but when you see sort of the brands that are chosen, they're definitely quintessential royal brands.
Jaguar has one.
Yes. Burberry has one.
Yes.
And so I think it reflects, obviously, that the royals have used these products. I don't think it's like absolutely outside the question that, oh, they're just choosing these for political reasons. Now, will that come up from time to time? I mean, that's entirely possible. Don't want to rule out that possibility. But I think most of the time, I think what Camilla's hairdresser was given a royal warrant. So they definitely give them out, you know, you could say a little bit as favors. But it's like, if you love a brand, if you're wearing the brand constantly, for some reason, I think clothes, when I think of royal warrants, that if it's a passion of yours, like Alexander McQueen could end up with a royal warrant at some point. You know, Emmy London is another brand favorite of Catherine. They could end up with one at some point. She wears a lot of their shoes. And so I definitely see them giving them out based on what they are passionate about. They're like, they're royals. They're like, well, I like this particular product, so let's go ahead and represent this one here. I think it's absolutely fabulous.
Because
it's amazing.
some are so like run of the mill, like Samsung TVs apparently has a royal warrant, but then so does the Ritz. And we know that King Charles absolutely loves the Ritz. He made his first public appearance with Camilla there. So certainly that is a hotel that the royal family has always loved. So it's interesting. I think you're probably right. I think some of them are probably a little bit political, or because I presume they have some type of commercial relationship. I actually don't know how that works, to be honest. But I think some, certainly when I think of like the Goreen Hotel and Fortnum and Masons and Jaguar and the Ritz, that comes from a place of like genuine love. But very, very good question. We're going to have to do this again, Brittany. Love these AMAs. Yes. I'm sort of getting into them because actually our audience have the most fascinating insights, super smart, brilliant questions. So we will have to do this again.
When Meghan Markle was expecting her first child, public interest was enormous. As the wife of Prince Harry and a senior working royal at the time, Meghan's pregnancy became one of the most anticipated royal events in recent history. Royal births traditionally follow a familiar pattern. There are usually official updates from Buckingham Palace, carefully coordinated announcements, and clear timelines regarding the arrival of the royal baby. However, when Archie Harrison was born in May 2019, events unfolded very differently. Information about the timing of the birth and the sequence of announcements immediately became a major talking point. The unusual handling of the news led to confusion among sections of the media and royal observers, setting off questions that continue to be discussed years later. One of the biggest reasons this story refuses to go away is because Prince Harry and Meghan Markle chose to do things differently. Previous royal births involving Prince William and Princess Catherine followed established protocols that had been observed for generations. The public was informed in a carefully managed way, and official announcements followed a predictable process. With Archie, however, the Sussexes opted for a far more private approach. They kept many details tightly controlled and departed from several traditions that royal watchers had come to expect. Supporters argued that Harry and Meghan had every right to protect their privacy and enjoy the arrival of their first child away from intense media scrutiny. Critics, however, felt that the unconventional approach inevitably created confusion and invited speculation. And as we know, when information is limited, questions tend to multiply. The controversy surrounding Archie's birth also highlights a broader issue. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle often sought to balance personal privacy with their public roles as senior royals. That balancing act frequently led to tensions between traditional expectations and their desire to control their own narrative. The birth of Archie became one of the earliest examples of this challenge. In many ways, it foreshadowed the larger disputes that would later emerge between the Sussexes and the royal family. Questions about communication, transparency, and media management would become recurring themes in the years that followed. As a result, Archie's arrival is remembered not only as the birth of a royal child, but also as a pivotal moment in the modern royal story. At the end of the day, opinions remain deeply divided. Some believe Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were entirely justified in prioritizing privacy during a deeply personal moment. Others argue that the unusual handling of the birth announcement created unnecessary confusion and opened the door to years of speculation. What cannot be denied is that Prince Archie's arrival remains one of the most talked about royal events of recent times, and questions surrounding that period continue to generate discussion across the world. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you believe the Sussexes were simply protecting their privacy, or do you think the unconventional approach inevitably fueled the ongoing debate? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest royal news, analysis, and commentary. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.